book, I talked about the gentle cesarean where you do a vaginal swab. But when we were talking before this webinar, you had an interesting concept about using sterile gauze. Like, just talk a little bit about that. Like, what would you do if your wife had to have a cesarean? I would your kids, you know.
Yeah. So the taking sterile gauze and putting it in the vaginal canal during the birthing process is a process that has been shown to actually be able to reduce any negative impact of C-section. So then as soon as the baby's pulled out, you take the sterile gauze out, and the first thing that the baby should be wiped with is that sterile gauze that now contains mom's vaginal bacteria and also to some degree some of the fecal bacteria as well. The fecal bacteria is also really important. Now, if that is done, that's great, and then the breastfeeding should help resolve a lot of the negative impact of the C-section. But the other part of it is the skin-to-skin contact with mom and dad. So the skin-to-skin contact and a lot of hugging and kissing, all of that stuff will transfer healthy microbes to the baby. And that close interaction with mom and dad makes a huge impact on the types of bacteria that the baby can be exposed to. But if they can do either the swab, and that would be, if you can do just the swab, then as soon as the baby's born, take a swab of the vaginal canal, and then swab near the baby's mouth, nose, ears, and orifices. If you can do the sterile gauze, you get a much bigger surface area, and you get a lot more of the inoculum, and that would be just wipe the baby's whole kind of head, face, neck, and body with it as well, and let it sit. Now, if
medical doctors would be like, we're not doing that. I mean, but I guess if it's sterile and, you know, they're coming through they would have been coming through there anyway. I don't know why they would have problems.
Yeah, they typically shouldn't. I mean, 4 years ago, you would have got a lot of resistance to it, but there's been enough studies and work done on this particular concept that I think more doctors are now familiar with it. Now, even let's say that you're in a place where the doctors are completely objecting to it, then after the baby's born and you're back in the room with the baby and the mom's nursing for the first time, I would do it yourself. You know, get just like a swab or a Q-tip of some sort and get as much of the inoculum as you can in the vaginal canal and just put it around the baby's mouth and ears and nose. That alone will have a huge impact on whether or not the types of bacteria that the baby gets exposed to initially.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I think like in studies, babies actually fare better if they're birthed at home. It is because of the bacteria issues, you know.
It is, yeah. Because the problem is in a hospital environment, they sterilize the environment, right? Or they try to. Yeah. And when you sterilize the environment, you basically select for more robust organisms. And those robust organisms, many of them tend to be pathogenic. And so what you tend to get in hospitals is a higher amount of things like Klebsiella pneumonia, Streptococcus, Staphylococcus. In your home, you have a lot more E. coli, good beneficial E. coli, Prevotella, and all these kind of organisms that are beneficial that we shed on a regular basis that accumulates in your home, and you haven't killed them off because you're not sterilizing your home as much. So when you have a birth in like your bathtub at home, the good part about that is that if it's a water birth, then all of that fecal matter and vaginal microbes and all that get washed into that water that the baby's born into. So the baby gets this amazing, exposure to mom's good bacteria right off the bat.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, that's really cool. Oh, so interesting. Let me see here. Then the breastfeeding.